This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Dr. Bryan Lee for the first time. Welcome to the Van Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Phantom. Appreciate it.
We love to talk to people from around the world, and it's great to talk to you for the first time. One of the things we like to talk to you before we get to the heart of your story, we ask a question of every guest. What motivates you and why do you do what you do?
That's always a good question. Nowadays things are a little different. I'd say that what really motivates me is helping people. I love to help people, and it feels like, in any way that I can. Sometimes you gotta make a buck to keep the lights on, but at the end of the day, I really want to just support people in doing what they do.
Well, that's cool. Well, I think being like you're a scientist in my day job, just to give, I work as a software engineer, kind
Yeah,
of data science in terms of doing data analytics, data
sure,
design, using all different types of means, whether it's mainframe or blockchain or AI.
sure, sure,
So like
sure.
kind of get into the idea of iterative development, like experimental stuff is like, hey, how many iterations did we do here? Maybe the happy accident here and there, but
Yeah,
we'll get into how the process works for you.
sure.
Um, I want to let everybody know, like we've got something new that we're doing today. We've got these QR codes, and so we've got a QR code for Dr. Lee. And right now, if you click there, that's how you get to his website. If you want to follow along, looking at his website while we're talking, so you can scan that with your phone just to give you a heads up. But before now we'll actually get to the heart of the story. Like how did you get into food science, and what does a food scientist do?
Oh gosh, I'll answer the second one first, just because the first question is really long answer. But basically, as a food scientist, a lot of what I do is primarily I help clients design new food products, and that can sound kind of culinary, but a lot of it has to do with like understanding food safety, understanding how flavors behave, the kinds of processes you need to apply, and then essentially how do you scale up that process so that you can make 10,000 jars of pasta sauce, not just one. So
Hmm.
that's like
Really
the
scaling, because like you go
yeah.
from like a homemade recipe or somebody's home, country kitchen or some kind of food truck, and then like, well, how do you take that thing from the food truck and do a million copies of that and make it safe and make it still taste good and
Yep.
package it, how does it work when you package something so it becomes a like it's a science and an art, I
Exactly.
guess.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's all sorts of different things. Like part of it is a little, you get a little lucky, right? But you can definitely engineer things, but at some point it's like you hope for the best for the most part. I shouldn't say that about the food industry. People shouldn't know that. But in answering your first question, gosh, it started off because I studied chemistry in undergrad, and I was actually like full on ready to do pharmaceuticals or like biotech and that sort of thing. I had no idea that food science was a field.
Hmm.
But then my dad passed when I was in my senior year, and I caught pretty distraught, and so I ended up deferring for a year and saying like, you know what, I'm going to do this thing I've always wanted to do, which is I walk across the country. So I walked from California to Louisiana, which took about 6 months, and in that process, I ended up eating so much food because I was burning like 4,000 calories per day. I couldn't eat enough. Like this is like the easiest, the easiest way to lose weight, right? Like, it's like
Yeah.
I was like skin and bones by the end of it, but I had to eat so much. And
Hmm.
what I realized was what I was putting in my body made a huge difference whether I could walk 20, 25 miles per day or 5 miles per day. Like if I ate
Hmm.
Cheez-Its or Doritos because I was
Too
feeling
much processed food, then you couldn't actually perform. It's like a mountain biker finds out that
exactly.
having that McDonald's or Burger King
Mhm.
before you try to climb that mountain isn't really gonna work.
That's exactly it. Yep. And so that got stuck in my brain for a little bit. And I kind of started meandering for a couple years until I found a research paper that had a really interesting article about flavor chemistry. And I just thought like, wait, like people do this? Like this is like something that people do for a living and you can study it. And I was like, well, sign me up. So I ended up getting my PhD in food science from the University of Wisconsin. Um, and then, when I graduated in 2020, I ended up starting my consulting business, which I've been doing for the last 5 years, just because it's the easiest way to sort of do what I really like to do, and potentially not have a boss, but technically I have my clients as my boss.
What kind of clients do you have? Do you have smaller companies or the big companies?
It tends to be smaller. Like for the most part, it's either just like regular entrepreneurs who are looking to start something. Maybe it's a small business. It could be a restaurant that wants to get into like a Whole Foods or like a small grocery store with one of their products.
So you could
There was
scale that. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I have like maybe one or two like really large clients, but for the most part, it's the smaller ones I work with.
That's interesting because you get the restaurant that wants to get into a Whole Foods or into a local, like whatever, it's a natural food market, a whole food market.
Mhm.
And then like how do you stay in line with like what the original recipe was? And then is
Mm.
it like can I be 98% or 95? Like what's the tolerance of like what it originally was to
I
how it
wish
goes to mass production?
I wish I could say 98%. That sounds amazing. The tolerance is pretty far. I mean, like I personally aim for 80%. That's a good day for me. If I can't get at least 80%, it's a bit of a wash. But it's hard. I mean, it really is, because what you're doing in the kitchen when you're doing like a small scale thing, you have various tight parameters. Like it's relatively straightforward, but anytime you start moving
The
up, it's like
scale, yeah, because you got to get something that's going to work, that's
mhm,
going to stay together in the package, right?
mhm.
It's going to do okay in the package,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then like how is it going to you know travel? I guess becomes like when you think about like tomatoes, if you
yep.
think like there's a mass produced version of a tomato that won't
Exactly.
be bruised. But if I'm a cook and I'm making pasta sauce, I'm probably not buying that mass produced tomato.
Right,
I'm
right.
buying the one that's more flavorful, which might be more delicate,
Yep,
right? I
exactly,
purposely might go to a farm and get it.
exactly.
And so it's just you have to decide like what does your customer want? What are they willing to let go or gain? You know?
That's exactly it, right? Like it's there's always a compromise, right? Like as much as I'd hate, I have to tell people like you got to give something up to get something, and a lot of it is like, how do you get a longer shelf life? How do you get something that can sit on a truck, go through Texas and Arizona, which are like insanely hot,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And so
really
it
hot.
can survive, right, on the other side. So that's where I have to like
So
tone
then
people.
it's like a lot of the scientific method, people probably think like cooking and science, they probably like, oh, that's antithetical. But it's like, well, cooking is science, you know.
Mhm.
So and it's an art. It's an art and a science at the same time because like you got to get the right combination to get your bread to rise, your cake
Yep.
to have the consistency you want it to have. And
Yep.
so like when you start to get into like thickness and consistency, they're all different types of like tricks that are traded over time that you say, oh, this is how you get this to be this consistency. This is how you get this to have this flavor. Like known things that you like the known.
Yep.
And then you
Yep.
have the unknown. We'll get into the unknown a little bit later.
Yeah. The unknown's a little trickier, is a little more expensive to get into, but we hope we can stay within the bounds of known, right? And it's remarkable actually, because there's so much research literature out there that like no one knows about, right? And so
Mhm.
part of my work is like hunting that stuff down and
Like
saying
a
like, oh,
researcher, you're just like what you know as a scientist how to research, like
exactly,
that skill
exactly,
set.
exactly. And like what's worth looking down, what path to go down versus like, wow, this paper really isn't that good. So I probably can just kind of toss it for the time being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting because like you got all this knowledge, like because of scientific method, people write papers, just like And computer science is like known algorithms. The computer scientists are
Mhm.
writing papers at MIT and Carnegie Mellon.
Yep,
Got
exactly.
all these things. They okay, this is the way you do this.
Yep,
This is the fastest way to make this server run based
exactly.
on what these scientists have figured out how to do, right?
Mhm.
And so you take those known things, but then you run into the okay, I'm doing something. This is an unknown piece of hardware. This is
Sure,
brand new. So
sure.
what it's supposed to be like X,
Yep.
but it's behaving like Y and Z.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is the worst. Those are the worst projects. I mean, I like them because they're the day when I actually solve them is such a good feeling. But most of the time, if I'm running into an unknown, it's really hard to solve because there's so many different parameters and variables. Like there's heat, there's where you source the ingredients, how they were mixed, and so on and so forth, and like what do you add, and like each of those increases the complexity. So if I don't even have anything to work off of, if it's a black box from the beginning, it can be really frustrating. And I had that happen before with a client that was, I can't say too much about, the
Yeah, yeah.
product, but let's just say that the product was kind of hit the bounds of, what had been researched. And clearly there wasn't sufficient information to sort of, help us guide ourselves. So, I suggested like you really do need to just do these experiments, like do this, do this, do this, do
Gotta have
this,
enough
and then
track record to get like some. You got to get some
something.
examples. Yeah, you got to
Exactly.
build a sample. Like if I'm a political scientist and I go interview 50 people versus 2,500, like if I 2,500 is like is sweet spot
Right.
for our statistical analysis and polls.
Hmm.
If I
Hmm.
only do like 50 people, like the results from that, I could extrapolate and try to run some stuff on it, but it's not going to be as accurate as if I run 2,500 or run
Absolutely.
10,000 or run 50,000.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
so the smaller the sample size is like, oh, I'm starting to run into problems.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's your balance because things cost money and cost time, and people they don't want to spend money like this energy doing the research, even if foundationally it will solve a lot of their problems. And that's the kind of issue I was run into is like from a pragmatic standpoint, like what can I have a person do that
Mhm.
I know will, even if 5 is a small sample size, like at least we can like since we don't have anything, right? Like it's like yes, this is like a statistical failure, right? But like at least like it's our statistical
Yeah,
failure.
yeah, yeah. Now in this AI age, are you able to use AI to extrapolate
Mm,
bigger samples theoretically through AI, or is that tech not
God.
there yet?
So the problem is that food has a lot of human elements to it,
So it's
and
too human. It's like art.
like art, yeah, it's like how far can you really go with something that has to like take something and convert it into quantitative value. Now we do that. We do that in the food industry, and it's called sensory science, where you take things like you can parameterize, taste, flavor, color, and so on and so forth. Like something is a 10, it's like a known standard, and then something is a 0, and that's a known standard. Like it's this red and it's this red. And then so
Mhm.
in between you have like examples of what it looks like between 1, 2, 3,
Like
and
a
so forth.
spectrum type
The
of thing. Yeah.
spectrum. And so you have like hundreds of people kind of just like do you like this, do you not like this, how, to what extent does this taste bitter, to what extent. And so there was a guy actually back in the 90s who was a statistician, and he ended up like working with all these food companies and making like very tiny variations of like sodas. Like they would be like, all right, we're just gonna get like this much sweet, this much sweet, this much sweet,
Oh, I
and
see.
then
So
we
they
would change the
different levels.
colors. Exactly. We just like had these different levels, but then they hired like thousands of panelists to like, evaluate it. And he crunched all the numbers and then found like this is like the perfect product for like, given this sample size. And it did really well. Right. So there
Mhm.
was something to be said about like doing some of that. But like again, that's really expensive, really
That's super
costly.
expensive compared to like maybe you got to go with what's known, and then also they get what I find a lot of times they're happy accidents. And like even cooks can
Yeah.
tell you, like
Yeah.
if your baker's like, hey, that's kind of like a happy accident. I was going for this, and I got that. And what I got is actually better than what I was trying to do. And I didn't really plan it, right?
Exactly.
So then you're like, okay, well, how? Then you like the chef figures out how to replicate that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then it's like, well, how close can you get to that in the production?
Oh my gosh, it's so off. What can I say? It's what we always wonder, like, why is the food in the grocery store so bad sometimes? It's like, we're a big country and things have to move from one side to the other.
To the
And
next,
so,
yeah. They gotta
yeah,
go through heat and cold and
exactly.
humidity and dry, and so you got all these elements of like, oh, it's too dry, it's too humid, it's too hot, it's too
Exactly.
wet, it's too
Exactly.
cold.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember working on another client project where they had a sort of like it was for a baked good, right? It was like a decoration for a baked good. But the problem is that when it goes through cold weather, it would crack. But if it goes through warm weather, it melts. So I had to solve both these issues simultaneously. And I was like, these are like paradoxically
Yeah,
against one
it's
another.
extreme. How do you cancel each other out?
They cancel each other out. So it's just like, and there's like, it wasn't like a set temperature. Like sometimes it'd be really cold because it would be like in Minnesota, right? Like,
Yeah,
but then it would
negative
be like,
20, negative, you know,
it was
what are you
crazy.
supposed to do in there? It's like because all these trucks are climate controlled.
In
Some
theory.
like the meat truck might be, and the dairy truck might be, but some of these
Well,
other trucks aren't.
it's crazy. This is what I learned is that, depending on how much trust you have on the truckers, sometimes they turn off their systems to
Oh, they
save
do?
gas.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
jeez,
really dangerous, but like
that's bad.
I know it's really bad. So like there's a certain like window of, you need really high tolerance for certain things, and make sure like things are sealed a certain way so that you're not losing heat or you're not gaining heat.
Wow,
So
that's a big thing.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's a really
That's
crazy
a lot
thing.
of work. So like when you're navigating, I guess between consulting, like with a business, and when they come to you with like a big problem, right? And you give people options, and probably like the best option sometimes is the most expensive option, and there's nobody
Oh
can actually go with that, and then they've got to deal with, well, what they can afford
yeah.
is not the optimum option. Right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
are they expecting optimum results for low cost?
I mean, who doesn't want optimum results from low cost, right? Like that seems like the sort of gold standard for like, value. Yeah, it's really hard sometimes because I have to sort of convey to clients like there is a fundamental difference between like me devoting like 20 hours a week on something and being paid accordingly to that versus like, I have to fit in as many projects as I can because I got to pay the bills. So, a lot of it ends up being me, I find the fastest route to the solution, which looks kind of like hacking it a little bit, in a good way. I definitely save a lot of time that way, but and it's funny because I seem to be able to be pretty decent at that. But what I did recently this year was I started contracting out that work, and I found out that not everyone knows how to do that, and I was like,
Yeah, but sometimes if
oh,
you give something to a contractor, you think they can replicate. We run to this in IT.
yep,
We run to like the biggest example is like customer service center. Right.
yeah,
The CFO thinks, yeah, we can just farm that out. Right. You send it, and then the customers start complaining. It's like, well, they keep on sending the clients all around and not answering the question.
right,
And then people don't know the product, and they don't know the geography of the United States.
yeah,
So
yeah,
then if they don't understand like how to communicate, right? So maybe that's a softer skill and you didn't value it. You didn't value that your CSR, on site actually knew
yep,
enough about the market and because actually he lived in the market.
yep,
If
yep,
somebody
yep,
doesn't live in the market, they're reading off a sheet, a cheat sheet, but they
sure,
really don't know it.
sure, sure,
Customers kind of start to feel that. And then
Yep.
they start to reject you.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh crap, like I gotta start refunding people, right? Like it's yeah, no, it gets really bad real fast because it's just, food's one of those things where, you kind of have that, you have to have some kind of fundamental connection to it, just like you're talking about, like the product, like there's a geographical connection there, right? And it's like the person has to have some kind of geographical connection. It's not
Yeah, they
just
kind of have to feel for it. Like if they gave a musician, right? Like you tell like a non-bass player to play a part that really needs to drum, right?
sure,
And you give it to a guy who plays trumpet. Well, he's going to
right,
do his best. He's a musician, but he's not a bass player.
yep,
And you might just think, well, he's a musician, so he can do it,
yeah,
but he really can't.
right. That's totally
So
it.
that's when you find out, it's like, oh, I actually need the guy that knows that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like it's hard because that's not necessarily even something that people know themselves. Like, you realize like, wow, this person can play the flute, but you kind of have to give them the opportunity to do it. And then otherwise, it's like this is really bad. And like some people just say that they can play the violin, and you're like, I don't even know if you're a musician,
Yeah. I think you got people like misrepresented their skill set. Like, it's like I got 10 years of sequel, and then you
Yeah,
give it to them and they can't do a stored procedure. You're like, oh,
right.
maybe they're not really doing it.
Right, exactly. They're just saying they're doing it. Yeah, it's
Yes. Yeah,
crazy.
because people say, I got 10 years doing stored procedures and they can't, all their stored procedures are just throwing errors. Like it doesn't look like they can write good stored procedures. Maybe they can write
Right,
them, but they
right.
can't write functioning ones.
Funny. It's really funny. Yeah.
So, what's the best thing about being a scientist? Is it like the unknown, or is it the kind of things that you get into a groove and you start perfecting something, or is it the things always being different? Maybe it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, part of it is actually I've been shifting a lot. I really liked formulating in the early years, but I think where my sweet spot has actually been is like learning to communicate knowledge. Like what I really like is the fact that food science touches so many different subject pieces, like whether it's engineering, whether it's chemistry, whether it's genetics, whether it's but even more a little outside the ballpark, which is culture, society, politics, regulations, and so there's like a really big ecosystem of touch points. And it,
Mm.
and it allows me. So I got recently diagnosed with adult ADHD back, maybe like 4 years ago, and it explains a lot. Actually, I'm like, oh yeah, now I understand why I behave that way. But the nice thing about food science is it provides me the opportunity to do all these different things that sort of connect, right?
Yeah, it's better than like I think the problem sometimes is like you get into a company, like if you were in the cube, like you're in the box.
Yeah.
Like if you want out of the box thinking, you probably
Yeah,
don't
live in
want
a
to put somebody in
box.
the cubicle, right? 'Cause a lot of times we find that like musicians, we tend to be neurodivergent. We tend to
Hmm.
be people that
Hmm.
won't fit in the box.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you try to put us in a box that we don't like it, right? Say the
Yeah.
creative type of person wants to be hit with things that are like kind of coming from left field, right?
Yeah.
They want to try like maybe like this is music theory and I'm going to turn it on its head, right? I'm going to go do something that I was not taught to do at Berkeley. I'm going to
Hmm.
invert this. I'm going
Hmm.
to revert. I'm going to do something totally different.
Sure.
And it's like once you get your 10,000 hours, then you master something, then you can break it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then you also don't want to be like the guy at the Henry Ford assembly line putting in the widget. I
Yeah.
want the guy that wants to put the same widget in every day, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to work on multiple cars
Yep.
and
Yeah.
one-time cars, like very specialized cars. See, now we got production lines that actually can do multiple cars on one line.
Mm-hmm.
Because they found a worker, if they just do the one car, they get bored out of the stall.
Oh, for sure.
So you don't really want to have that person this be a machine. You
Yep.
need them to be a human.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I feel like there's that tension, right? Like, because I'm a bit of like a mercenary or like a pirate, right? Like I don't live in these systems, and so I show up, and like it's almost like there's almost like this gravitational pull or like tendency where, you know, companies don't know what to do with me. So like they'll like try to put me in some kind of like system, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave. Like I don't need to be paid all this money. Like I'd rather not like sit here and do
Yeah, you
all this.
rather be like on the cutting, like an entrepreneur. That's just kind of what we do. Like the person that will do the startup, that will do the entrepreneurial work, that's more like a consultant. I've been a consultant for many years, and I kind of went with a startup because I could wear a lot of hats. Like one day I could be doing QA, next day I could be doing architecture, then I could be doing design, I could be doing, you know, whatever's needed.
Yeah,
Like,
whatever's
you know,
needed.
so
Exactly.
like then you feel like you're in a group that allows you to just you know, actualize to whatever you need to be.
Yep.
And it's a challenge to like to go, yeah, I want to go back and do some VBA code, or I want to do
Yep.
some
Yep.
SQL code, or I want to go do whatever is needed for the project. I've got to go out and do a use case. I got to do a
Sure.
scrum session, whatever. I got to go be that black belt for the day. You know, like whatever. Like you do whatever you got to do, but I don't want to be that black belt
All the time.
every time.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that
Exactly.
all day.
That's
I
so
don't want to
true.
be in the PMO office all day. I don't want to do that.
Give me like 30 minutes and then I'll get that on my
You know, I get
system.
a heck out of PMO. It's like I don't want to be in there that long.
Oh man, that's funny. It's funny. Yeah, I mean it's so true because, you know, even now, like I'm even fighting my own like tendency to be in like my comfort zone. Where like I understand the business pretty well and I feel like, you know, I can run it as it is. But now I'm like suddenly I'm like venturing into like doing documentaries or like, you know, even this past week I was invited to do a commercial, right? Like it's
That's
just like
cool.
these sort of like really random like it's non-linear
Oh
opportunities that,
yeah,
you know,
non-linear is the big thing. I've talked to authors. I talk
yeah,
to filmmakers. A lot of
yeah,
people don't realize filmmakers film in a very non-linear way.
right, right,
Sometimes they might
crazy,
first scene of the day might be the final scene of the movie.
right, yeah,
You know, and then it'll
absolutely,
be totally out of order, and then they have to put it together.
you
But
have to
that's
put
how they
it
do it.
together.
And you know, authors do the same thing. They might have an outline of what they're going to do, but as they're writing the project, they're all over the place,
Yep.
and then they move it around. And musicians the same way. I mean, Frank Zappa used to do that. He used to sit in a room with tapes, live tapes, stuff from the studio, stuff from here, stuff from there, and then kind of weave it together. And he
Amazing.
found that process was better than just sitting there sequentially with the band trying to put it together.
Right,
Better to
right.
kind of stitch it together.
Yup, yup. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, it's like organized chaos, right? Like there is someone has like some touch point on everything, but like in no way, shape, or form is it like ready to do anything until the whole thing has to come together. And I feel like, you know, if it to that point, I'm like, yeah, that's how I do product development. That's probably why like no one can replicate it because there's no
Yeah,
process.
it's not flowing in that. So, you know, the sequential order is how everybody wants to run. It's kind
Exactly.
of like waterfall. People want to run that way.
Yep.
Everybody tells you that they're agile. But I see everybody still like running like waterfall. They still want to do it in a waterfall way. And, you know, to have a scrum session, but it's like you're still doing waterfall and need to slow down.
Yeah, you can't riff.
What are you doing? You're not really agile. It's like, okay. It's like you tell everybody you're agile, but you're not. But that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I feel like that's like, you know, a lot of companies will talk about innovation, they'll talk about like creativity. And it's like you don't really know what that word means. Like you just want the outcome of it and you don't know
You
how to.
want the guy. You want to find a Steve Jobs. You want to find that guy who will come up with that like one hits in a million thing.
Mhm.
You're not getting that from the guy sitting by the waterfall.
No.
That's not coming from him. Like
Yeah,
he might show up and he's always at his desk. When you look at the desk, he's always there. But that's not really where it's coming from.
no,
They
no,
figure that
no.
out. But they
That's
can't figure that out. They're still kind of lost in that. It seems
yeah.
like they're still like stuck in the agrarian, you know, industrial
For
revolution
sure. I
structure
love that.
of
Yep.
business.
Yep.
No one's like your idea could come to you at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like
Exactly.
while you're sitting in your pajamas,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
but it's like and then you think it's gonna come from the guy in the cube. It's like probably not.
Not the guy who's getting up at 7 a.m. every day and going to sleep at 9 p.m. No, it's not him.
That's the guy who's doing it, but you can't figure it out. It's like the women and men that are doing that are people that you can't tame. It's like
Yeah.
lightning in a bottle,
Yep.
and you wonder why it doesn't want to stay in the bottle.
Yeah, right. No, it's true. Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I love that you mentioned that because, I for a long time, like I tried to create like that sort of routine, but like, only in the recent year have I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go with where my intuition takes me. And even this morning, I just woke up at 3 a.m. and I was like, oh, I've got it down. Like I am killing it here. Like 4 hours in, I've probably done my entire days of work, right? Like it's just there's sometimes you can't control it. It's
Yeah,
just
it's like what we call in the arts, we get a download, or we
yep,
call it like a muse. And
totally.
like artists tend to be in tune. And
Yeah,
really what it is like there is stuff that's coming from the outside, but we're
of
also in
course.
tune with our subconscious.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like a really good artist can actually have like waking dreams because they're kind of cut. They're
Mhm.
actually can recall their subconscious at
Yep.
a better rate than somebody else. Right. They actually and they'll tag that as being amused, but it's actually a lot of it's coming from inside.
Sure. Sure.
And it's really knowing that you have the permission. Because a lot
Yep.
of people don't give themselves the permission to do that.
For sure.
Right? They just stop themselves from doing it, and then they wonder,
Mm.
"I can't create." Well, you're the one that stops you from creating.
Yeah. Yeah. You already are your own worst enemy in that, right? Like for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing, the discipline to be a scientist, I know about like the science discipline, like even in programming, there's a certain discipline
Yeah,
to
definitely.
get that code done and
Right.
to make it reliable and make it work, and then also customize it to be what the client wants.
Hmm.
And it's you got to listen,
Yep.
and then you got to act,
Yep.
right? And a lot of people like they'll act and they don't listen.
So like it just kind of comes out kind of like jarbled,
Yeah,
right?
he's like, okay, I'll just give you this package and hope that I can shoehorn it into what you want and get you to believe that's what you want,
Sure.
instead of actually giving you what you want.
Yeah, no, I can't believe that happens so often. It's like because everyone wants it to be assembly line, right? Like everyone wants the concept of assembly line of like efficiency and like productivity and like if we want to get 1,000 units, well, let's get 1,005 units. It's like well, you can't do that when like the person that you're dealing with is like I'm gonna go to the desert for a little bit. Like I'm not gonna sit here. Like I just need to go sit and like do my own thing, go for a
Mhm.
walk, right? It
Yeah,
just,
like,
there's
totally.
no, it's wild. It's a
But
wild,
then because when I lived in Japan,
yeah.
I was around all these salarymen from 2004 to 2006 in downtown Tokyo, and then I would notice, like, they go to these little, like, forest ponds they have in the middle of Tokyo and do
Mm,
tai chi and
yep,
meditation
yep,
and drinking tea and kinda, like, just relaxing, like, in this
for
meditative
sure,
state and stuff, and they were still hard I mean, they were working 14-hour days
sure.
in the office, but they knew when to go off and go have
Mhm.
a break
Yep,
and do tai chi and go off, and they would do it
yep,
because,
yep, yep.
"Well, I'm gonna be here all night anyway, so it doesn't matter." It's like,
Yeah.
I can go off and then I can take a break for myself. I can go eat. I can go
Sure.
and spend like an hour eating.
Yep, yep,
And so they give themselves some grace.
sure,
And I
sure.
was like, well, they kind of need that. Like people don't know when to do that in the West. They tend to like just burn out.
Yeah. Well, and the first, there's no tradition around that, right? Like it's this idea of somehow like it's frivolous or it's like not important. But like, you see these like high productivity societies, and to your point, it's like they come out of like an ancient culture of like, yeah, you do have to like chill out for a little bit. Like the brain is not, even an engine needs time for it to cool down and
You
to
got to
be
cool down. Yeah.
and to
You can't
be
just run, you're going to blow that Hemi up. You're
yeah,
going to blow it out.
exactly. We
So
call it a breakdown. That's when people go and get depressed.
yeah, it's just so hard because everybody's thought they like it's a badge of honor to work all night. It's a badge of honor to like have no breaks. Like it used to be like a programming badge of honor. I've been in the programming world since the '90s. It would be like, oh, I'm gonna stay in the cube for like 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
It's like there's diminishing returns with that. Like if
Division.
you actually walk away, you'll actually find the syntax error.
Yep.
Right. But if you stay in it, you don't see it.
You don't see it.
You don't see it. So it's actually more productive if you actually took a break.
Yep. For sure.
But like when you're thinking about like the best part of being a food scientist, what is the best part?
I think it's something I can always talk to a person about, right? Like everyone has to eat, right? That's like the kind of motto that I go by, and kind of drives a lot of the work that I do is I can walk down the street and talk to someone about food, right? And fundamentally, that's different from like chemistry or engineering or like
People
these
probably
like
walk away if you start talking about chemistry.
yeah, exactly. Right. Like I can at least like attract them first, and then we can get to the boring part. No, but it's a conversation piece, right? Like it allows me. I love always going down the grocery aisle. Like actually, I call it like my safe space, so to speak. Like if I'm feeling like really, really burnt out or like really anxious or something like that, I'll just go down a grocery aisle. And there's something really calming about this idea of like, people created all this, right? Like this is like part of the cultural and technological history of who we are. And you probably won't see it in a museum, right? These are just like products, but like that's my museum. Like
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a current culture. Like, it's interesting. I think about I'm a child of the '70s, and I remember like the 1970s supermarket versus like today,
right.
and it's a totally different feel. Totally different feel, totally different like vibe based on what was going on back in the '70s. It's like you can kind of take this point and picture. Like you get reminiscence, like, oh, these products aren't sold anymore.
Yep.
Like cereals like Freakies or something.
Right.
They don't have that anymore. But it's like, you're like, oh wow, like remember the old days when you used to have this and used to have that. And it's just like but you see what we have today, and in terms of the convenience and what you can get, and you're wow, it's like the whole idea of being able to have food in a supermarket is a scientific revolution in itself.
Absolutely.
Like everything that's on the aisle is because of folks like you, the food scientists. That a lot of people don't even know there's such a thing as food science.
Exactly. Right. Like I didn't even know. Right.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea until I got into it. But I always loved grocery stores. That's like the fun thing is like, in high school, I remember always I'd walk to my neighborhood Trader Joe's, and I'd like, okay, I did like a little tutoring, so I'd like treat myself to like a piece of cheese, right? Like I love cheese, so like, and it would just like be like a little hunk of cheese that I kept for like a week, and it would just like slice off of it. And so like it's like you're saying is a technological marvel that we are able to like have shelf stable foods or refrigerated foods that are safe. I mean, with the FDA / I'm not sure, but
nowadays,
so far so good. So far so
good. Well, you're hoping that well, the thing is like people need to understand, like regulations aren't just there to like cause problems. In terms of food safety, to me it seems very important because I'm a cancer survivor,
right?
And so I'm a little bit immunosuppressed.
Right.
So if somebody puts out a product that's more compromised, my system is more susceptible to that.
Sure.
So I tend to be very cautious about what I'm getting, and then check the dates, check alerts about different things that might be going around. And I don't think a lot of people are in tune with that.
Right.
Like they might not know what the latest like FDA or alert is. They might not be aware of recalled foods or things that are potentially suspect if you don't understand about food safety.
Yep.
And how
Yep.
much, people actually taught in home economics anymore about like how long should you keep rice out after
Yep.
you cook it? How long
Yep.
should meat be left out? How long can an egg be left out? Some people just don't know, and they were never taught. People just assume, oh, well, your mom taught you how to cook. It was like, well, what do you actually know?
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It's pretty remarkable to me that, we spend all this time and energy, you know, doing all so many different things, but like somehow we've like brushed off food. Like it's like mundane, or it's like it's not worth our time. Despite the fact that, like you're saying, there's all these different pieces. Like it is so critical for our health. The wrong food will make you sick, and like you have the risk of dying, even, if you're not able to, keep it safe. And so I find it really fascinating that, you know, there's that sort of fundamental disconnect. Like a lot of consumers sort of take it for granted that there's even food, or like they're like, why do we do the things that we do? It's like it's hard to tell you why we do the things that we do, because we don't have an education system that like encourages us to talk about these things. Like you said, like there's no home economics anymore. It'd be
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, yeah, we used to be taught about, I remember in the 70s, like I had junior high school, they had a home economics class. We were taught how to bake. We were taught
Right.
that you don't mix like your vegetables with your meat, like you keep it
Right.
separate. Like, we were told about salmonella. We were told about food safety, food preparation. Now, like if your parents don't know that or weren't taught that, you don't have
Right.
home economics, you don't know.
You don't.
People assume that you were taught, and you aren't until you
Right.
learn the hard lessons. Like, oh, I guess they shouldn't do that.
Right. Right.
Well, you
Right.
should learn before that.
Yeah, definitely before you have the hard lesson. That's
Or you hit that emergency room. It's like, oh, I guess I should do that.
yeah, we'll wait there, right? Like,
I'm making chicken, and then I'm touching my lettuce.
right,
Like, maybe
right.
you shouldn't cross contaminate.
Yeah, definitely,
But
definitely.
same things that seem simple to people in this age now, where people don't read, they don't
Mm,
really retain what they
mm,
read.
sure.
And you're wondering, like, well, you can't just, like, the tech is really cool, but if you don't actually read and retain the knowledge when you're taking a class, if everything you're doing to practice for the test is Chat GPT,
Yeah.
right? And what did you remember from taking that course? If
Sure.
it's in and it goes out, the
Yep.
whole point of learning is to kind of build on it. And
Sure.
we know, like, if you take the Socratic method,
Hmm.
I went to a liberal arts school like Bowdoin College, and we had blue book exams, oral exams, Socratic method, not just multiple choice. I have critical thinking where you have to actually explain to the professor what that theory means in your own words.
Hmm. Right.
It's
Right.
actually going to retain that a lot more than if you had to check it off on a like SAT type of test.
Sure. Sure.
And if you're
Definitely.
not in it, you're going to lose it. If you're not doing it, you're going to
Yep.
forget it.
Yep.
So then it's like what's the value of just like cheating for the test?
Yeah, right. Like you might get ahead like momentarily, but down the road, you start to see and you start to realize like there's the people who really like maybe it took them longer, but like really absorbed that information and made a foundation out of it, versus the people, maybe they're fast learners, but like it never became like this compendium of information that became useful and practical. You know
I
what I
think the
mean?
passion and the fact that you're a scientist is like there's a passion for knowledge, for learning. Because if you're in science, you're continually testing your theories. You're
Hmm.
willing to like realize that, oh, this theory's been overtaken. That somebody proved it wrong, right? So you're
Sure.
constantly in a state of learning till you're not here. Like
Yep.
like a good musician is constantly pushing themselves and going
Mhm.
beyond what their competency is,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So you have to continually be willing, like you say, fail upward.
Yeah.
Creative people tend to fail upward. They tend to do, experimental work. They'll tend to do like the happy accident. And maybe, they'll have 100 different variations of something. Maybe only one of them worked.
Sure.
but
Sure.
it's not the 99 things they did aren't failures.
They're not
They're they're
failures.
they're steps to get to that 101.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And too
Absolutely.
much of what we do is people just want to go 0 to 100 and have instant success without understanding that
Instant
it's a
success.
process, it's a continuum,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so interesting that we've sort of like we created this culture where, people fear doing the work, right? Like because there's so many ways to do shortcuts, like, and I think it's endemic in industries too. Like I get all these clients that they use chat gpt to like make a formulation, and I look at that, I'm like, this is a piece of garbage. Like I'm like, this is like, you should not be doing this. This is gonna hurt someone, right? Like and it's just so funny because some people, like, they get actually pretty far that way, which
Yeah,
it's
that's really scary to me because like if you don't know the fundamentals, like and I was taught how to use the Dewey Decimal System and
Mhm.
to the heart actually go to a resource library and do the look, going into microfilm, looking at things, finding learning how to actually cite things,
Mhm.
footnotes, don't
Sure.
plagiarize,
Sure.
actually do the work. And then when you look at these people just using the AI, it's like you kind of need to know how to do it the way I was talking about before you use the AI. And maybe you
Right.
use the AI
Right.
as a tool, right? But
Exactly.
you don't use it as a 99% replacement for doing the hard work.
Right. Because then how do you know if you're right? Like, I think
You
it's
don't know
so
if you're
funny to
right.
me. Yeah, like you have like no basis for trusting this thing. Like it to me, it's like it's like kind of like the early days of Google, right? It's just whatever came up because of the way that the
A lot of
search
times
engine.
people they like the problem with ChatGPT and all the AI is it gives you a very convincing answer if you're not
Yeah.
somebody who's going to be a doubter and say,
Mhm.
why did it say that? Where's the
Right.
proof? Where's
Where's
the
the
site? Where's the citation? Where'd this
Yeah.
come from? Right. And people will just take that first answer and say, well, it looks good. Right.
Right. Right.
Looks
Right.
better than the Google search. Right. Did five
Which
years
was not
ago. But
much
it
better.
like what is it actually saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
actually giving you a hallucination.
Yep.
It's actually putting something together that actually isn't real. But
Right.
because they actually put it together, you say, "Whoa, it put together a sentence. It put together a paragraph." So that means it's right. And that's the problem I have with
I
it.
mean, it's such a huge issue. I mean, it tells you something about how humans are educated, and I think it's this sort of like idea that there's some authority, right? I mean, yes, there are people who are skilled, and there are people who are professionals, and there are people who are experts. Like I happen to just be touted as an expert because
Mhm.
I really like this field and I study it really well. But at the end of the day, I also don't know that much, right? Like I mean, you could argue that I have more knowledge than like your average person, but that's not, to me, it's not sufficient. I think there's this, there's some recognition that should be understood, that like we need each other.
Yeah, well,
Like we need
that's what you
community.
gotta know what you don't know. Like,
Yes.
that's the problem with some of these tools. It makes everybody an expert,
Hmm.
and then people go into spaces talking stuff that they don't know.
Yep.
And then because they get a million views,
Yep.
somebody is like, "Oh, I'm an expert now." Because what? I took an opinion and then I got a million views, but then there's no scientific evidence, there's no
There's
legal
no
evidence,
basis.
there's no basis for what you're saying, but a million people like it like a cat video. So
Right.
if a million people like what you said like a cat video,
Right.
but it actually may be, not something that the world needs. Like, 'cause you're actually saying, like, "Oh, a med bed can actually solve cancer." That's not real.
Right.
It's
Right.
like it's like you found it somewhere and then you pushed it. It's like, but that's just like an invention.
Yep.
And, so that's the problem we have with tech is like, Oppenheimer found the problem.
Hmm.
Like he got so interested in fission. Then after he did it, he's like, "Oh, That's what happens when you do fish.
Maybe we shouldn't do that,
Maybe you
right?
shouldn't do that. Like
Let's put it back in the box.
you were so into trying to solve it without thinking about the concept. This is where you're having like a multidisciplinary, where like you take some philosophy, you take some history, you take some English, you take some art history, and you take the science. Because then you can't just have the science in a vacuum.
Right.
Like you like what you mentioned, like you like what you're doing because it mixes multiple disciplines. That you're rolling around like you get a little bit of everything. You're not just pigeonholed into the X and Y's and the zeros and ones and yes and no.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting when I do meet people or talk to people who have a very like narrow perspective where like they only do that one thing. I notice like they're very good at that, but the direction in which that thing is going is like maybe you should stop. Like maybe like that's not actually fundamentally moral or like there's like an ethical like
Yeah.
mandate for like what we're doing as humans. Like you can be like really smart and skilled, but it's like it reminds me of what the Germans did. It's just like they had so many great things going on for their society, and yet like it's like, well,
You
what
get
did they do?
misdirection. If you get misdirection from like you get this mindset that came from the politics of it and the ideology, like the kind of feudalism, the top down thinking, like the lessons of the 30s, right? Is like oligarch mindset, tyrannical mindset, despot mindset, right? And then then you had really smart guys like Porsche, Mercedes Benz, and what was VW, and say, okay, yeah, we'll just fall in line with that.
Right. It's like, okay, with
We'll
that
build a
works for
V2.
us.
We'll build a
Yeah.
V2 rocket, and we'll shoot it over here. And then, like, it's cool you built the rocket, but maybe that should have gone to space.
Right. We'd be
Eventually, it
pretty
did go to
far.
space. Eventually, you did get repurposed to help it go to space. But like at the
Sure.
time, it's like you were putting it in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like I always like why just because you can do it. Like in music, what happened for us was like the sampling machine. The sampling machine got ahead of the law. So eventually people had to start paying for their samples because at the time it came out, they didn't have the idea that you had to clear the sample. So in legal means the tech got ahead of the legal copyright rules.
Right.
And AI is in the same place right now. It's the same place as the samplers. The tech is ahead of the law. So people are able to use people's voices and repurpose it and make a video saying I said something I didn't say with my face and my image.
Right.
Well, there's libel and there's all kinds of legal things you can go after people, but the tech can go so far and make so many versions of that where the court gets caught up. It's like, I don't have enough courts to bring that in. So the problem is like the tech can always get ahead of our legal system. It can get ahead of our moral standards. And we have to start looking, some of our tech people is like, do you have any kind of grounding in community, in standards, in mores? And like, is that actually the proper thing to do with that tech?
Right.
If you say money is the only reason that you should do it, then I'm going to, okay.
Yeah. It will take you pretty far in the wrong direction. That's the problem.
Pretty far going the wrong way around. And you come back to the same lesson again. And we do the repeat history. Because you won't read the history book because you think it's not important until it's like, oh, maybe that was important.
Yeah.
It's just a full circle. But what I like about what you're saying is like, food is life, right? And like when you go to a grocery store, you just kind of get brought back to it. Like, wow, this is like people don't think about it.
Right.
But it's so important. And you're involved in a very minutia of it, like really detailed part of it. And it's interesting to kind of, when you actually go in the aisle, you can see like well, here's the actual physical product.
It's pretty cool. I feel a lot of honor to be able to like be in that space and be able to like have touch points. It does feel cool to be like, oh, I made that. Like, like I don't get a lot of accolades. It's not
Like,
like
people
people
don't know
know.
because they don't see it. They wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
You're here talking about it, but like you don't really get like you don't get the like an actor, or
exactly.
like get the accolades from everybody giving you the Emmy. I mean, in the industry, do you have like awards?
I mean, there are awards, but they're mostly academic awards, like for research. I'm sure there's like a few industry awards, but you got to be associated with a company. So,
Oh, you have to be with the
the
company to get it.
yeah, yeah. No, there's no like artistic talent award, if
Or
only.
like most viable like product or process that like it
Right.
really like a revolutionary process that they wouldn't say, hey, this is like this wins an award because this is a revolutionary thing.
There is the World Food Prize, but again, it's like unless you're really actively a part of like an organization, they
Yeah,
just don't really recognize you, right?
maybe
So
they need to have different levels.
maybe that would be cool.
Encouragement's always good. People forget about it. Like as I say, if you give people the encouragement, you make people aware of it. Because then there's probably a lot of people that until they heard this podcast, they don't even know about this discipline or
Right.
this potential career. So people who are in college doing biochemistry or working on that field, and they think they were going the farmer route, or they thought they were going like bio genetic route, and then it's like, oh, this is another route.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's
Definitely.
cool. I think it's really interesting to have different points of view, and I've never had a food scientist on the show before, so this is the first for us.
I'm glad I could be the first.
And we do have your, like I said, we do have a QR code here, and that QR code is equivalent to your Mendocino. Where is that how you say it? Mendocino Food
Yep.
Consulting.com. So if
Yep.
if you can't click on that URL right now, but you could take your phone and scan that QR code and get to your website. So if people go to your website, what do they find there? Ways to connect with
Yeah,
you?
I mean, a lot of it's gonna be like, what I've done, some of the work I've done, some of the articles I've been in, like my trailer for my documentary, links to my book, and just like a little bit more about me and the journey I've taken to kind of get here.
So we do encourage people to click the link, check out the book. Ways if you're interested in connecting with the doctor, try to you can use that QR code, or you can go type that link, or within the podcast description, we've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. You can just click on that link, either the Instagram one or your actual website, and get to you that way.
Awesome. I appreciate
I want
that.
to thank, want to thank you for being on the show today. It's really great to talk to people around the world. And if you have a book or something in the future you want to talk to us again, you can connect with us.
Yeah, appreciate it, Phantom. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's been really nice to chat.
Thank you.